Colts offense has been on the struggle bus lately, but does it mean that they need to put some heat on their quarterback? Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right. Thanks for tuning in and making us your last listen of the day, I guess, as this is a special late edition episode coming to you on a Wednesday evening. But this is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Jake Arthur of horseshoehuddle.com. And today it's been a big fat minute since we've done this, but I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions. I put out the bat signal for questions the other day on Twitter and Facebook, and you guys hit me with some good ones. So we're going to go through the offense. There was some questions about Anthony Richardson and his involvement lately. You've got some Nick Cross stuff going on the defense. You guys want to know what's going on there. And then there was also some questions in terms of, off-season priorities, what to do about free agency and some things like that. So we'll break those up into a few segments. Starting off with the offense, this one was on Twitter from I Ride Boards. Has Anthony Richardson been around much? You don't see him on the broadcast or hyping up teammates. Well, I'll start with saying, when the guy is around, no one is more involved with it. No one is more involved as him. He is always there with his teammates, and in Gardner's ear and Shane Steichen's ear. But basically, he had surgery for that shoulder injury a few weeks ago back in Los Angeles, and he pretty much hit the ground running right after with his rehab. So my understanding is he's been out there just doing some post-op work. And Shane Steichen said that he is set to rejoin the team this week. So, let's see. Yeah, he's ready to rejoin the Colts this week, next week. I don't know if he's going to be in Germany with them, but he's coming back soon. So you'll start to see him around more often, I'm sure, on the broadcasts. And there will be more to say about him coming up when he's back in the building. The next one was from our guy Kenan. That's at VVJones007 on Twitter. And this one was joking, but I told him I was still going to take this one anyways. Should the Colts bring back Carson Wentz for the stretch run? Now, of course, an hour after he said that, the Rams went and scooped up Carson Wentz to be Matthew Stafford's backup. But honestly, the Carson Wentz thing aside, a lot of people have been talking about maybe putting some pressure, putting some heat on Gardner Minshew, because the performance just has not been there. He's been efficient, he's completing a high percentage of passes in general, but the passing game, it's very predictable. It's very dink and dunk. There's not much downfield, and it's just really easy for defenses to combat. And as a result, they've been loading up the box and, saying we're going to stop Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss. Gardner Minshew, you beat us. And, by himself, he has not been able to do that. Either the running game has stepped up, or in this latest instance against the Panthers, a big win, Kenny Moore had 2 pick sixes, which were vital to the Colts win there. So I don't really think the Colts are actually going to bring anybody else in. Now that Wentz is off the block, who Wentz was the best one available, you're really looking at Matt Ryan. That's really about it. Anyone who's noteworthy, Matt Barkley just got called up to, I think, the Giants practice squad. The next best option is if you were going to put pressure on Minshew, which I really don't think that they are, your next best option. Sorry, I cannot talk tonight. Is really, I guess, seeing what Sam Ehlinger can do in a Shane Steichen offense. Probably getting a little more mobility there. Your accuracy is about the same. Arm strength, maybe you give the edge to Gardner there, but I don't know. there's really nowhere to go on this one. I think everyone's just going to kind of have to strap in and be down with watching Minshew for the rest of the season. Last one addressing the offense. This one is from @PapasHome on Twitter. Has the lack of tight end involvement lately been more affected by the positional health, the offensive tackles with a lack of experience and needing to be helped by tight ends, or opposing defenses stacking the front against the Colts? I think it's a little bit of everything, because obviously Kylan Granson is the leading pass catcher among tight ends, and he missed those couple games with the concussion. He's got 28 targets on the season, which leads all the tight ends by 11 still, and he missed all that time. Drew Ogletree has been banged up. He's been relied upon as a blocker quite a bit. Mo Alley-Cox is really just a blocking tight end. And then Will Mallory, when he's been out there, he's not, much for blocking either so far. So I do think it's a little bit of a mix of all that. They need those guys blocking. The passing game in general has been very, very inconsistent. And Michael Pittman Jr. has been fed the ball pretty much. That's who Gardner Minshew is most comfortable with, clearly. I expect it to go up a little bit, but at the same time, I don't like the passing game is just not going to be at full strength at any point this year. Like, it will be at full strength for what it will be under Minshew at some point. But I mean, I don't know. That's a lot of spreading the ball around, a lot of running backs, a lot of Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs when he returns. I don't know. I think it would be easier for Shane Steichen to make the tight ends a bigger, more focal point of the passing game if he had Anthony Richardson and the playbook was more open up, and you weren't really hamstrung by your passing game. So it is what it is for now. With guys being healthier, I think we'll see them just naturally be more involved, because if you think about it, your approach at tight end has had to change pretty much every week. There's been one of the top 2 or 3 pass catching tight ends gone each week, it seems like. I really can't think of the last time everyone was healthy and available. Obviously, Jelani Woods, they say he's getting closer to returning, or at least to the practice field, but he's been out the whole season. So we'll see. I would brace for, a heavy dose of Michael Pittman Jr. moving forward when Josh Downs returns. Same with him. The tight ends just have to get healthy, and I think that's probably the biggest part of it. So coming up, we will move over to the defensive side of the ball and see what questions you guys had for us there. Buying tickets to your favorite event should not be stressful. Gametime is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you'll actually have. I personally love Gametime because if I feel like being spontaneous, going to a show or something on a whim, I can go right to them and not have to browse a bunch of different places. I'm going to be out of town this week, so if I figure out, want to go see a show or like do something cool that I haven't experienced here in Indy, or where I'm going in St. Louis, if I think there's something cool, Gametime is going to be a great option for me to see exactly what is going on over the weekend. Plus, with their flash deals, images of seat views, and the lowest price guarantee, Gametime is an easy choice. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seats before you buy so you know exactly what to expect before you get there. Plus, buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're all set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Football season is here, and Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On NFL Kickoff Live. Each Friday, Locked On will go live at 2 p.m. Eastern on every single Locked On NFL YouTube channel, and hosts Tanitra Batiste, Jarvis Davis, and Kyle Krabs will break down every game on the NFL slate for that week to get you ready for your team's matchup. your fantasy lineups, your betting angles, all of it. Plus, get the in-depth local analysis from our stable of NFL hosts across the country who know these teams better than anyone else. Find Locked On NFL Kickoff Live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern on any Locked On NFL YouTube channel. All right, so let's look at this defensive side of the ball. It's been kind of up and down lately. The vibes are inconsistent. You looked at a real low point of the season against the Saints. It looked real bleak. And then last week against the Panthers, the defense carried the thing, and they would not have won the game without an outstanding performance from the front and with the secondary playing lights out. So hard to know kind of what to expect week to week. But this first one was from on Twitter at Sir Dak. Will the defensive scheme change help with consistency, or is that mainly a personnel issue? So those things kind of go hand in hand. The more healthy quality players that Gus Bradley has at his disposal, the more he's able to tinker with things. And, health kind of dictates what you can do, because here you are 2 weeks ago and you got to start Tony Brown, or at least you felt like you had to start Tony Brown because you don't have a Juju Brents, all that happened after Dallas Flowers goes down. So at full strength, Gus can change up his coverages and do stuff like that, which to his credit, and if you guys listen to Zach after the Panthers game, they did do that. He mixed up some things. There was some cover 3 in there, some shell stuff. So he didn't just stick to a single coverage throughout the game. He mixed things up a little bit to kind of keep things interesting for Bryce Young. So he's always going to try and do that. But again, the more banged up they are, the more they're just going to have to kind of keep it simple for the players that are there. But we saw last week, they got some guys out there that were comfortable playing, and which is surprising because, no Zaire Franklin, you still were without Juju Brents, but they got good performances out of it. And it really helps when the defensive front is actually putting pressure on the quarterback like they were. So we'll see. I'm kind of expecting, now knock on all the wood around, but I'm kind of expecting a similar performance against the Patriots that they had against the Panthers this week. Obviously, that's not counting on 2 pick sixes from anybody, let alone just Kenny Moore, but some pressure up front leading to guys in the secondary taking advantage of errant throws and things like that. That's kind of what I'm looking at. The next one, this is 2 Nick Cross questions. Our guy, Jake, at Colts Guy 505 on Twitter, free Nick Cross. That is my question. And then our friend Felipe put kind of a prettier bow on it, Jake. I'll say it. He said the performance over expected by Rodney Thomas has apparently created the illusion that he is a good free safety option. It seems to me that Julian Blackmon is a better free safety than him. Is there any insight or opinion into why they can't have a Julian Blackmon-Nick Cross tandem? Has Nick Cross been that bad in practice? So, yeah, I think they just really trust Rodney Thomas a lot. I'm not going to say he's been bad, but it's just, he hasn't been making all those splash plays that he did last year. He led the team with 4 picks last year as a rookie. He was always around the ball, getting a lot of tackles. I just feel like everything has kind of slipped a little bit. And they do now they say Nick Cross could play free and strong and some in the nickel. And they say that about Julian Blackmon as well. So with that being said, they could mix things up more. But again, it's more about their confidence in Rodney Thomas. And with Gus Bradley's scheme, there's just never really been a lot of wiggle room to have the 3 safeties. So to them, I just think it's Thomas hasn't done anything to be taken off the field. And because of that, that is where Nick Cross would probably play. Julian Blackmon, I think, has been playing really good football to Felipe's point. I personally would like to see more Nick Cross involved. I also would like to see what it looks like with Cross and Blackmon, because I think that would lead to a really physical safety tandem. It would probably help the run game a little bit because the run defense has not been great lately without Grover Stewart. I just would like to see them find more ways to get Cross involved. I think, again, I kind of just mentioned it. They think that both Cross and Blackmon can play free, strong, or nickel. they could just mix it up a little bit. Like, I just think it's time to see more Nick Cross. You made a high round investment in him. You traded draft capital. The role he's been relegated to for the most part for 2 years now is that of special teamer, and he's been one of the best special teamers in the NFL that whole time. He's ranked near the top in special teams tackles. Like, the role you're giving the guy, he is excelling. So why not give him a role that you drafted him for, and that's defense. You don't have to throw him in the deep end and give him 100% of the snaps all game, but I think it's time to see a little more of what he could do. So I could not agree with you guys more on that one. And then the last one on the defense, considering Jalen Jones and Juju Brents keep playing the way they are, would you consider drafting in the first 3 rounds or signing another free agent at cornerback next year? Or would you keep those two both as the starting outside cornerbacks? That was from @Depisa on Twitter. So those two guys, Jalen Jones and Juju Brents, I like what I've seen from them. I like the growth that they've shown. I would personally give both of them the first shot at being the starters next season, and I would re-sign Kenny Moore to be the nickel. So that's your starting 3 right there. But I also would not. I would make sure that those guys have competition and that the cupboard is not bare. Because so far we all saw this problem with the cornerbacks this year coming a mile away, and boom, when you know it, here comes the injuries, and now the problem is reared its head. So I would make sure that the depth of their cornerback group is now they counted on it being young, which it was intentional from them, but you can't let it be a total liability if there are injuries. Like, they have to have more experience in the back end, and they have guys on the roster like Darren Hall, for example, who has played and started before. So I don't know. I would give those guys the first shot at starting, but if really good players fell in their lap, I would not avoid that either. Like, to me, almost no one is just ironclad. You're a starter next year. Boom. Like, if a good opportunity presents itself to get better or add to the group, I say do it. But again, those guys are young. I do like what they have done. So Dallas Flowers factors into that as well. I think it'll be a really nice training camp battle next summer all over the place. Like, the secondary should look a lot better once everyone's healthy next summer. So coming up, there's more to talk about. We'll talk about some of the offseason priorities. We just kind of started diving into that a little bit, but we have got some more. Whenever the game clock stops, that means it's time to order in with DoorDash. Why root for your favorite team on an empty stomach? Order on DoorDash and save on your watch party favorites. Get 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend at least $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter code LOCKED23. Subject to change, terms apply. And like I mentioned, I'll be traveling this weekend, and my wife and I are the type of people, when we travel, we do not like to eat at places that we could eat here in Indy. It's just the thing. Like, you don't want to. We can eat this every day here in Indy. We're traveling. We want to see what the locals eat. You know, what's the good stuff around there. So even if we're not going to be able to go to some of those places, if we're just being bumps on a log and staying at our Airbnb, we're going to go to DoorDash. I am sure of it. Look up the local favorites section because DoorDash has you covered there. They'll pick out things that aren't really chains, especially not national ones. They'll tell you what the locals actually rate high there. So that's a really nice feature that I like with DoorDash. I do that pretty much every time I do travel. I always wind up using DoorDash somewhere. So don't forget to use code LOCKED23 for 50% off up to a $10 value on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and spend $15 or more. Subject to change, terms apply. All right, party people, let's get to these final questions here. So this last one, do the Kenny Moore and Michael Pittman extensions get done, or when do they get done? And that was from @SchofieldB95 on Twitter. So, number one, I think both players have earned extensions with the Colts. I think so. With Kenny Moore, you could probably let that one get to free agency. I don't think his price tag is going to be huge because he's getting a little longer in the tooth. He's nearing that 30-year-old mark. And for DBs, that's, teams aren't really banging down the door to pay older DBs that type of money, especially not like outside cornerbacks. It does help him immensely that he has had like a rebirth in this second season in the Gus Bradley defense. And he's kind of starting to show the master's level operation within it that he had started to do in the Matt Eberflus scheme at the end of it, the last couple of years of it. So that goes well for him. But Michael Pittman, this is going to be arguably his biggest contract he ever earns, and not to cheap out or anything, but it would benefit the Colts, I think, to get a deal done earlier. The sooner they get a deal done for him, the better, because if you let a guy like him hit the open market, it's just going to drive up the price. We see it every year in free agency. Guys are paid just incredible amounts of money, whereas if they would have re-signed with their original team, before free agency started or even, late in the season, the price tag would not have been as big. So if I'm the Colts, I'm trying to get Michael Pittman Jr. done soon. If you use the same defense they used with Jonathan Taylor, where, we won 4 games last year, we want to see what things look like with this new offense, with this new head coach. Okay. The passing game has been solely centered around Michael Pittman Jr., so he fits into this offense. He's been a huge part of it, even if there was a post-game comment there where you kind of question that. But no, if I'm the Colts, I'm re-signing Pittman, and I'm doing it as soon as possible. Or at least I'm coming to the table for negotiations. I wouldn't let this thing be such a late development like with Jonathan Taylor. They at least need to be at the table figuring out what prices are and just kind of at least start the process there a little bit, because I don't think it's going to be a good idea if they truly want him to wait it out until the open market comes, because he's going to be so expensive if that happens. And then again, like I mentioned with Kenny, that one they could probably wait a little bit, but I would still do it. Nickel cornerback play and cornerback play in general is just really important. And still, they've drafted these guys, Juju Brents and Jalen Jones. They're outside corners. Your backups are still safeties, essentially, unless you're counting on Tony Brown. And I think we've seen he should primarily be a special teams player. So, you're looking at Tony Brown, you're looking at Julian Blackman and Nick Cross as your backups. But 2 of the guys I just said are safeties, and one of them you're having a hard time finding playing time for. So I would definitely make sure to lock up Kenny, and I would probably invest in a quality backup for that position in the offseason as well. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit. I don't see any of those happening super soon, but I would hope the Colts have a plan to get those done sooner rather than later. So last one here. This one's kind of loaded. It's from David Whiteley from Facebook. You guys may not be ready for this question, but how do you see the offensive line and defensive line moving forward in 2024? Ryan Kelly, Braden Smith, and DeForest Buckner are viable cap casualties, but could be extended, take a pay cut, or otherwise made to be cap friendly. Danny Pinter and Grover Stewart are unrestricted free agents. Bernard Ryman and Blake Freeland are likely the starting tackles. And when you factor in Kwity Paye and Dio Adangbo, there will be a lot of paydays coming up in 2 and 3 years. The trenches are not going to be the same next season. So that is really intriguing because I think Braden Smith is a super intriguing one because he is very handsomely paid. But you kind of do have this other tackle in Blake Freeland that has played pretty good football and has showed that he's getting better the more he has to play, because he's already had to be thrown in there. He's filled in for Smith. He's filled in for Ryman. I mean, at the very worst, he's shown that he's going to be a pretty good swing tackle for you. So that's an intriguing conversation the Colts are going to have is the price tag of Smith worth it, where they should just move along to Freeland once his contract's up? That's going to be an interesting one. Ryan Kelly, I think we'll probably stop hearing the cap casualty, the trade stuff. I think we'll hear that quiet down because Ryan Kelly is another player that's kind of had a rebirth with this new coaching staff. He's been playing some of the best football of his career this season. So again, some of these guys make a lot of money where you can restructure things, but we've been saying that for some of these guys for like 2 years and they haven't done it. So DeForest Buckner is another one you mentioned. That's another one where you kind of don't want to poke the bear on that one because this guy has trusted you and bought in to what you're selling and could have requested a trade and wanted out and would have deservedly so. So Buckner is maybe a guy they don't want to restructure unless they convert some more of that money into guaranteed money, take it off the books as bonuses. I don't know. But to your point, I see you're saying the trenches are going to look a little different. Danny Penter, free agent, like you mentioned, Grover Stewart. Now, I think the Colts with the Grover Stewart thing and the suspension, 6-game suspension for PEDs, I think they're supportive of him. When it comes to that, I don't really think that's going to factor into whether or not they re-sign him or not. And I do think they would still like to re-sign him. I mean, shoot, the Colts' performance against the run in these few games since he's been gone is a big reason why. I mean, Stewart, even at his age, has continued getting better, has added things to his repertoire, and has become one of the very best nose tackles in the game. And the Colts are hurting right now without him. So there probably will have to do some cost-cutting measures this offseason. I'm not going to say that any of these big-name guys are going to be cap casualties. But I do think it would probably be wise to move some money around just to create more cap space. Because you're right. I mean, they kind of make the excuse every year that, you can't pay everybody. We got some big ones coming. And yes, you do. Kwity Paye, Dio, Dangbo, that'll be coming up. You do have extensions you have to take care of. So I don't know. Those are really interesting ones, though, guys. I want to do this more often. And I know Zach loves to be a part of this, too. I don't think we've done the Q&A stuff since training camp ended. So it's good to kind of get back to our roots on that one there. I promise we'll do another one of these again. But shoot, that's it for this episode. You'll notice you guys are pretty much getting 2 for 1 within 12 hours on this one, because this one is going up right here tonight, Wednesday night, and then we'll have crossover Thursday coming up first thing Thursday morning. So by a lot of you guys who might be asleep already by now, you will wake up to 2 new episodes. So good for you. If you guys don't already, follow at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2 on Twitter. Also, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. We would love your ratings and reviews as well. It helps get us up the charts. And if you like the show, leave a really nice review, because people who are upset and not nice tend to be the loudest, and some of our reviews look like that sometimes. So it'd be good to kind of drown out some of that noise if you guys really like the show. But with that, we will see you guys Friday, and then we'll see you again after the game.